This is VOA Africa.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidou-Ewart. It's Thursday, September 19th. This is Africa 54. A new report criticizes African governments and global community for the continent's child poverty rates. Co-founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill Gates, discusses ending poverty and improving access to quality education for all. And how an Ethiopian handbag designer in the U.S. is opening doors for women back home. A new report is revealing disturbing news in the fight against global poverty. It warns that children in Africa are being left further and further behind and will make up more than 50% of the world's poor by 2030. The authors of the report are extremely critical of both African governments and the international community for failing to adequately tackle the problem. Henry Ridgewell has more from London.
The United Nations has 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Number one on the list is eradicating extreme poverty by 2030. The world will fall well short of that target, according to the latest report from Save the Children and the Overseas Development Institute. It delivers a devastating verdict on global efforts to eradicate extreme poverty among children in Africa.
On our projection, children in Africa will account for around 55% of all extreme poverty in the world by 2030.
The report authors say Africa's children are being left further and further behind and predict that 87 million African children will be born into poverty each year in the 2020s.
On average, women are still having 4 to 5 children. And it's the part of the world where poverty is coming down most slowly, partly because of slow growth, but also because of very high levels of inequality.
An estimated 40% of Africans still live on less than $1.90 a day.
A child born into poverty faces greater risks of illiteracy, greater risks of mortality before the age of 5. They're between 2 and 3 times more likely to die before their 5th birthday. They're far less likely to escape poverty themselves, which means that they will become the transmission mechanism for poverty to another generation.
The report criticizes African governments for failing to develop coherent policies and also warns that the IMF, the World Bank and other donors are failing in their response. More than 150 world leaders are due to attend the United Nations Sustainable Development Summit later this month in New York and will aim to agree on an agenda for the next 15 years. Dramatic changes in approach are urgently needed, says Watkins.
Transferring more monetary resources to children who are living in poverty has to be part of the solution. But we know also that money is not enough. It's critically important that these children get access to the basic nutritional services, the basic health interventions, and the school systems that they need to escape poverty.
The report warns that if poverty reduction targets are not met, the world will also fall well short on other sustainable development goals in education, health and gender equality. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
In part 2 of her in-depth interview with Bill Gates, Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu discusses with the co-founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation ending poverty and improving access to quality education for all, Goals 1 and 4 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The foundation has just released its 2019 Goalkeepers Report to keep track of the progress made towards the United Nations Development Goals.
Now, speaking of poverty, there have been a lot of focus on an investment over the years in reducing poverty in the world, and your foundation has very much been significant in doing that. Yet many people still live in extreme poverty. So what is the failing poverty reduction in the world? What needs to be done differently?
The world has done quite well on this. The people who remain in extreme poverty are farmers, and a lot of them are subsistence farmers, either in Southeast Asia or Africa. So helping educate them about credit for fertilizer, better seeds, how they can store water, how they can use chickens to supplement their income, particularly if we focus on the women and the crops and things that they work on, we can uplift a lot of those farmers. Now, we have the headwind that, sometimes the government's not running good agriculture programs. We have population growth, we have climate change. So it's not going to be easy to keep extreme poverty going down as quickly as it did the last 20 years.
Now, you talked about population. The report says that regions in the Sahel, in Afghanistan and Pakistan and India have some of the highest fertility rates in the world. How do you address, when we talk about population, how do you address insufficiency amongst some in the developing world that say that promoting family planning may be an attempt to reduce certain population?
Well, in fact, as countries get healthy, that is you reduce the child-to-death rate, families voluntarily choose to have less children. As you educate women more, families voluntarily choose to have less children. And so what we're about is just making sure people have, on a voluntary basis, access to these tools. And we do surveys on a very regular basis to understand, did you go to find it, was it stocked out? Did you feel some pressure to use it, which would be inappropriate? And in the history of family planning, there have been cases where governments put too much pressure on people. But the good news is that even without inappropriate pressure, as we uplift families, they will choose to space their births more, which helps a lot with the health, and in some cases have less children.
Okay. Now, speaking of education, the report shows also that the gender gap in education is closing, but will persist in sub-Saharan Africa for the foreseeable future. So how can this be addressed to improve future outcome in education for young girls?
Within Africa, there are countries that do better on the gender gap than others. But I'd also highlight that the quality of the learning experience is still something we can do a lot. There are kids who are in school for long periods of time, and yet their ability to read sentences or do simple math is not very good. And so helping to train the teachers, making sure we're picking the teachers in the right way. We have still some work to do on access, particularly at secondary school. But then we also have work to do on quality. And education in some ways is harder than health, because in health, if we add a new vaccine, someday we'll have a malaria vaccine, someday we'll have a TB or an HIV vaccine. So, I can say that within my lifetime, these infectious diseases will be greatly reduced. In education, it's every day, training the teachers well, making sure they're doing their job well, making sure it's properly funded, making sure the cultural message that, yes, the girls should be here and that they have a positive, safe experience as part of their schooling, every year we just have to get slightly better so we can have education empowering people, and that's really where Africa will thrive. There are a few exemplars, like Vietnam, for its level of wealth, runs a fantastic education system because of the teacher personnel effort they put in.
In part 3 of her interview with Bill Gates, co-founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Africa 54's Lino Moodoo will discuss, among other things, some solutions and few ways the world could adapt to climate change. Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi is on a 4-day state visit to Belgium, his first official trip to Europe since taking office in January. Serena Chondri has more on his visit.
This is not quite the welcome Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi would have been hoping for on his first official visit to Belgium. Dozens of people gathered on the streets of the capital, Brussels, to protest his leadership, some carrying signs calling him corrupt and a usurper. Since taking office in January, Tshisekedi has promised to clean up corruption. which he said flourished under his predecessor Joseph Kabila in power for 18 years. But civil society groups have accused his administration of reckless spending, charges he's denied. Despite having copious reserves of copper, cobalt and gold, widespread corruption has helped to make Democratic Republic of Congo one of the poorest countries in the world. Tshisekedi, who arrived for a 4-day state visit late on Monday, brought several ministers from his new government with him to sign various cooperation agreements with Belgium. After meeting Prime Minister Charles Michel on Tuesday, the Congo leader visited the tomb of the unknown soldier to pay his respects.
President Tshisekedi is facing pressure from Congolese nationals abroad and at home to make good on a promise he made when he took office to reconcile the country's various ethnic groups and root out corruption. In July, Congolese refugees living in Phoenix, Arizona, protested outside the state capital, calling on Tshisekedi to end conflict in parts of eastern DRC, an area home to the Banyamulenge ethnic minority. For more perspective on this situation, I'm joined by Jean-Paul Ruhosha, Executive Director of Congo Today, a non-governmental organization focusing on peace and reconciliation as well as economic development in the DRC. Jean, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you.
Now, Jean, tell us, what more do you know about the ongoing ethnic violence in South Kivu, especially that targeting the Banyamulenge minority group?
Well, right now there is a fight that there is a coalition between Mai Mai and which is a tribe organized by Babembe, Bafurero, Banyinu, and with a coalition with international group which is come from Burundi, called the Redi Tabara, and their objective is to fight against Banyamulenge. They identify enemy as a Banyamulenge, so and they've been killing them.
But why Banyamulenge? Why are they being targeted? For what reason?
It looks like a political issue, political reason, that they want to kick them out. That's the agenda they have. They don't believe that they are Congolese, even though they've been there more than 300 years. But they still want to kick them out. And right now they killed more than 220 people.
So how does President Tshisekedi respond to those who criticize him for not making good his promise when he took oath of office to say that he's going to reconcile these ethnic communities, he's going to reach out to all the people so you can have one cohesive country?
Well, that's a big mistake, and that's his failure. He promised that, but it's worse than ever. It's what's happening right now, the situation that is happening, it doesn't look like he's going to help. And we've been trying to involve him. We had delegations of my community. We organized more than 3 delegations to go see him, but nothing is happening. He's not doing any action. He's not doing anything to protect those people.
But there are a lot of people who have been protesting. We saw the Arizona, protest back in July, the Congolese refugees there. We see a lot of refugees also coming through the U.S.-Mexico border, coming from Congo. And I'm sure he's had this criticism. What has he said so far?
You can see on his speech in Belgium what he said. He didn't even mention the situation in South Kivu. It looks like he's in the same issue. He doesn't want to talk about it. And if you don't want to talk about it, then you're not going to resolve anything. And we've been engaging him to do that, but he's very, very silent.
Okay, now very briefly, your organization deals with reconciliation and peace for Congo. What do you think should be the way forward?
The way forward should be him to engage his administration to tackle this issue. Also to allow the organization like Congo Today to operate, to bring a peace, because we need reconciliation. But before reconciliation, we need to tackle the issue of army group who are there. And the Constitution of Congo allow him to do that. There is no any group of army or any rebel group who should be on the ground. And they are killing the people. The consequence, he already seen it. But unfortunately, he's not doing much to resolve it.
Let's hope he's listening, and let's hope there will be peace for the people of Congo. Jean, thank you very much. Excellent insight on this topic.
Thank you so much.
Jean-Paul Ruhosha is Executive Director of Congo Today. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54, and we'll be right back.
Portuguese,
Bantu,
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African Beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/AfricanBeat.
I am Shaka Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
I'm Clara Frank, and here's what's trending. Over 40 contestants from 15 different African countries, including Algeria, Egypt, Nigeria, and Cameroon, recently gathered in Lagos for the second edition of the African Freestyle Football Championship. Freestyle soccer is a sport of skill and expression, where the player performs various stunts and tricks with a football with an aim to beat the competition. Ivory Coast's Abdul Kone dominated the competition to retain the trophy after his win last year. The winner also bagged a cash prize of $3,000 and an all-expense-paid trip to compete in November's Red Bull World Competition in Miami. Next up, growing interest in renting even everyday clothing is catching on with big box retailers. From Macy's to Banana Republic to Urban Outfitters, a wave of leading brands and department stores are lending out their clothing for a monthly rate, all catering to the growing rental retail trend, with consumers borrowing everything from formal dresses to denim to even athleisure. While the rental retail model represents less than 1% of the total apparel market in the U.S., according to global data, it's seeing double-digit growth. And finally, from Cornwall to Cape Town, a combination of salt water, UV rays, and the wear and tear of life among the surf means most wetsuits only last a few years before they start to lose their warmth and elasticity. This is where sustainable outdoor wear brand Finisterre wants to change. They've created what they believe is the world's first fully recyclable wetsuit. They're trialing their innovative recycling technology, breaking down and transforming existing wetsuits into a non-virgin crude oil that can be reused by the plastics industry. Finisterre is also launching a wetsuit buyback scheme next month, where surfers can drop off their old suits to be used in a test recycling program. And that's what's trending today.
Porous borders, lax law enforcement, corruption, and one of Africa's biggest ports is helping criminal networks in Nigeria corner most of the African trade in pangolins. The scaly and shy pangolin is the world's most trafficked mammal. Prized in Asia for its use in medicine, Nigeria is a main hub for the illegal trade of the unique creature. Law enforcement officials, NGOs, and wildlife experts say Nigeria's borders, poor policing, widespread corruption, and ports are helping criminal networks control most of the African trade in pangolins. This year, Hong Kong and Singapore have intercepted 3 huge shipments of pangolin scales weighing a combined 34 tons, worth more than $100 million, all originating from Nigeria. U.S. President Donald Trump appears to be reveling in the construction of a new section of border wall between the U.S. and Mexico. The border wall literally became the president's signature project on Wednesday. Trump used a permanent marker to sign a new portion of the rust-colored metal barrier, reinforced with concrete and rebar, raising as high as 9 meters on Alta Mesa, a suburb of San Diego that separates California from Tijuana, Mexico.
This wall can't be climbed. This is very, very hard. And what the panel does on top, as I said, is structural, but it's also very hard to get by that panel. Plus, it's designed to absorb heat, so it's extremely hot. The wall is, you won't be able to touch it.
Trump deflected questions about his pledge that Mexico will pay for the wall, saying he could impose a 5% tariff on products from Mexico to cover the cost. But that he doesn't want to do that because of the current cooperation from the Mexican government. Trump says the border barrier being built is meant to deter even the most well-equipped smuggling operations. The U.S. Democratic presidential race is heating up, and a new poll shows Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren surging into second place behind former Vice President Joe Biden. The NBC News Wall Street Journal poll found Biden leading the Democratic field with 31%, followed by Warren at 25%, and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders in third place with 14%. VOA national correspondent Jim Malone has more.
Senator Elizabeth Warren took her campaign before a large crowd in New York City, where she vowed to attack political corruption if elected president.
Corruption has broken our economy, and corruption is breaking our democracy. I know what's broken. I've got a plan to fix it. And that's why I'm running for President of the United States.
Warren has been rising in the polls for months and has emerged as a top challenger to the frontrunner, former Vice President Joe Biden.
Everybody knows who Donald Trump is. Even his supporters. No, everybody, even his supporters know. They have no illusions. But we got to let them know who we are. We got to let them know who we are.
The candidates are back on the campaign trail after last week's spirited debate in Houston. During the debate, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker urged his rivals to temper their attacks on one another.
We've got one shot to make Donald Trump a one-term president, and we cannot lose it by the way we talk about each other or demonize and degrade each other.
After 3 debates, Biden, Warren, and Sanders remain atop the Democratic field, says Julie Pace.
The ultimate thing that you want to know, though, out of these debates is, did anybody change their standing? And I think among those 3 candidates, the answer is probably not really.
So far, Biden appears to be doing just enough to hold his lead, says analyst Larry Sabato.
Joe Biden did reasonably well. I think he did better than in the first 2 debates. That's not to say he gave a perfect performance. He always manages to work in some odd things, like encouraging people to listen to their record players.
Sabato says Biden continues to benefit from the notion that he would be the strongest candidate to run against President Trump next year.
There's a reason why they've made a tentative choice. Democrats have clarified their entire nominating process and boiled it down to one question: who can defeat the President Donald Trump? That's what they care about.
Even though Sanders and Warren are battling for second place, Warren has been the one on the rise in recent polls, notes Emory University expert Andra Gillespie.
The challenge for Sanders is that there is a viable additional option in Elizabeth Warren. And so I think what we are paying attention to now in these surveys is whether or not Elizabeth Warren's ascendance is actually coming at the expense of Bernie Sanders. And so I think that that's still an open question.
Democrats hold their next debate next month in Ohio. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
From an African orphanage to being adopted by an American family, Ethiopian designer Abai Schulz, the Gaste entrepreneur, returned to her native country a few years ago, sourcing materials, overseeing crafting techniques, and securing distribution channels. Schulz does it all. The company employed dozens of Ethiopians, particularly women. Africa 54's Heidi Adams Fitzpatrick and Abisan visited her store here in Washington, where she shared her secret to success.
I started the business about 5.5 years ago. I've always wanted to go back to my home country, Ethiopia, because I left the country when I was about 11 years old, so I've had a certain attachment to the country, and I wanted to be involved in the economy somehow, and the best way I knew how. And so for me, it was more of a combination of passion and opportunity. And I saw an opportunity in the leather industry, and I was also very passionate in terms of like creating products, anything that you get to have like a tangible aspect of it. I think the real economic development is really about using the country's resources and using the country's talented people to create a sustainable economy. And so that kind of basically became what ZAF is now for me. I think I always wanted to, for sure, start my own thing somehow. It kind of runs in the family, so I think I would say I did have that desire for a while. My name is Abai Schultz, and I am the founder and creative director of ZAF. My dream, my vision for ZAF is really to create a premium African lifestyle brand.
I got connected to Abai during my time in Addis Ababa. Foremost, what attracted me was the design aesthetic. It's really well-made products. But then also the philosophy behind the label, the fact that it's made in Ethiopia, now made in the rest of Africa, very sustainably, sourced. And supporting local women and other craftspeople makes it even more attractive.
We have a team of about 18 artisans that we directly employ, and then indirectly we employ a lot more. For the last 5 years, I've worked with amazing African women in my team. I don't think you should employ women out of pity. I genuinely think they add value to your business because they're very precise in terms of things that they do. They're loyal and they're committed and motivated. They do take a very big responsibility in their household. And because of that, they take their job very seriously as well.
This is a super amazing evening for us because, one, it's at the African Art Museum, so it houses Africa's treasures.
Usually, when it's something made in a developing country, or like especially in Africa, there is a stereotype of the premium quality products are not produced there. And I think when they see this, that's where we're trying to communicate that if you invest in people, we can produce good quality products that are desirable. That's something you want to buy and enjoy.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a good evening.